Hey Josh.
I've been thinking about the podcast. How about in the first series we focus on the pandemic?
Yeah, and in each episode, we can ask our guest how it's been affecting them and what they do.
We could ask people to join in with the hashtag posnegative.
How would we introduce it each week?
Or just say, welcome to Positive Negative.
Got a bit of a different episode of Positive Negative today. For want of a better word, I guess it's a bonus episode. I'm just on my way now. I'm walking up Queen Street in Cardiff, heading towards the castle in the Stone Circle. The Black Lives Matter protest is taking part today. Hopefully I'll bring you some sounds and voices of the people attending the protest.
Everybody in here, I look around, everybody that's here, you're woke now, you're awake. So I applaud you, stay awake. Stay awake. We will no longer be silent. We are human, we are black, we are proud, and we will be heard.
Yeah, obviously we're here because of the atrocity which happened with George Floyd, and this has brought out all these protests and whatever. But obviously it's not just George Floyd. We've had a lot of atrocities in the UK as well. You're talking from the case from Steve and Laurence got all the way through. All of these things are racism. So we need to just look at how we can change that.
I think there's a need to spread the awareness about things that happen, social injustices, social ills that ordinary black people experience, and the ordinary Caucasian is not aware of it because we have this white privilege thing. It's not the white Caucasian's fault, but I think they need to be aware of the kind of things that we face as this subconscious bias that we face as black people. It happens everywhere.
It's not about an event. It's not about a man being killed. It's about the years of the Holocausts that they called slave trades because we were property. It's about the years of growing up in this madness where you can't accept yourself in your own skin. It's not about the one person dying. It's about the years and years and years of being stood on and stamped on, used us to make everything and then kicked us to the curb with it. That's what it's about.
We're here today to show that all different cultures and stuff can stand up for things that affect black people everywhere. Obviously it's not going to be an overnight thing because it's been happening for ages, but I feel like the more people that come together, not just black people, different races, white or that, I feel like we're going to get more respect, whether that's legally or even on the street, but either way is beneficial.
In the last couple of weeks, definitely it's been brought to the forum, but obviously we've got to be aware this has been going on for over 500 years. From slavery, we've been brought across from as slaves. We've been trying to fight the system there. There's many people who spring to mind, like Martin Luther King, Malcolm X or whatever. But we're still here, still fighting the same battle, and nothing's changed. So I'm just hoping that now, as a global movement, we can start changing things a little bit more. It's not about the one day, it's not about one march, it's not about blacking out Tuesdays or whatever. It's about consistency, it's about keep on doing it, you know what I mean? It's about educating other people as well.
I'm here today because I think it's a very important cause, and it's something that none of us can afford to be silent about. It feels strange to be coming somewhere with a lot of people during a pandemic. It's definitely the most people I've been around for months, but we all get to make that choice, and part of the reason I get to make this choice is because I'm healthy and I have benefited from systematic racism throughout my life. I have a safe, secure job. I've been able to work from home, and part of that has been that my life is made easier by structural inequality. And I just don't think it would be right to ignore a protest of this importance. These are the only times that I've been to a protest where you have to try and keep distant from people. I think everyone's trying their best. I think people are trying to be respectful and they're trying really hard to maintain distance. And I know a lot of people who felt like they couldn't come today because they've not been well themselves and they were worried about spreading it, or they work with vulnerable people, or they've got vulnerable members of family and things like that. And there's been a lot of sort of real kind of personal decisions that people have had to make on the basis of a lot of different factors, that I think means that everyone's really been wrestling with this quite a lot. Certainly everybody I know, and within the conversations I've had with friends and family, everyone's just working to make the best decisions that they can, and if they can't be here today, then what other ways they can engage.
I'm here today, right, because I left New York to come to Wales because they're my bloodline. There was no money here, mines have been closed down, and blood is thicker than water, and I left, yeah? Hip-hop, which is our renaissance of the black movement in America, of expression through rhythm and music and, dance and that, and left there and come to Wales, Cymru, 30 years ago. The reason why I came, not for money, yeah, because to me, Welsh lives matter, yeah. Wales has been the poorest of the whole of Britain, and I started to look into the history of a very strong nation of people who had to give up their way of life and their language in many cases. That's why some ended up in Argentina and speak Spanish. Hola, hombre, amigo, señorita, and señora. To me, why I am here as well is it's a language and expression that's in the people, and they've been bound and gagged in many different ways, because if you don't, it's bullying all the time. If you don't do as we say and not speak your language, not do this and not that, then you're not going to have a job. You can't feed your family. And the worst question you can ask is why, because as soon as you say why, yeah, as soon as you say why, they slam the door in your face and they won't answer the question directly at all. They want to deal with things in a different agenda. It's mental warfare and reversed form of psychology.
No peace. No peace. No peace.
I'm an ally. I hope we all do our bit to make this change happen, but I also hope that organisations, and obviously in my case I work in the arts, I hope that arts organisations step up, admit their faults, admit their mistakes, admit accountability, and do the right thing and speak up and take action. So my name is Jafar Iqbal. So I've been here since 2015, and I've written probably like 4 or 5 articles about the lack of diversity, lack of representation in Wales, and I've done it on platforms like Wales Arts Review, on my own blog. I published one yesterday morning, which was kind of more specifically about organisations and how large organisations in Wales bury their head in the sand. So in the article I actually point out several examples of where there's been systemic racism exposed. Whether I've done that or whether someone else has written about it, but it's been made public knowledge. And no one within that circle of organisations says a word. So if a theatre company gets exposed, no other theatre company comes up and says, that was wrong. If a literature organisation did something wrong, no other literature company comes out and says, that was wrong. There's a silence, and that's wrong. There are people who do speak out, so there's people of colour like myself, and there's so many more experienced and woke people who talk about these things than me. And then there are also white people who do talk about these things, and that's great. But there's only so much you can say on social media, and there's only so many people you can reach on social media as a person. Not everyone has the benefit of going viral. It doesn't happen all the time. Whereas if an organisation did it, that would get more traction. People would see it, they would listen to it. A prime example of that is Blackout Tuesday. There's another article coming, and that's about how companies responded to Blackout Tuesday, what they did, how they did it, what they didn't do, if they did anything at all. I'm basically just saying, well, how much of this is just PR because the entire world is doing it, and how much of it is you actually wanting to make change? And I'm hoping that, so we're currently standing in Black Lives Matter protest And I hope it is a moment of change. It feels like a moment of change, and I hope so. I'm not black. I can't imagine what it means to be a black person in today's world or ever. But I have my own experiences and my own stuff that I deal with, and I'm trying to be a better ally, and it's up to organisations to do the same thing, and I hope they do, and I hope that everyone does, because it's needed.
Anywhere in the world is just as important as anywhere. There's injustice everywhere, and it's not good enough. It needs to stop. And I think especially people with privilege, such as white people, should use that to put a stop to it and stand up for what is absolutely right to end injustice for black people and people of colour.
Understand things from where we're coming from. Understand that for me as a black man, it's weird when I walk into a room and people are like, oh, he's black. You can see it in their faces, you can see it in their reactions. You can see it when I go to deliver training and they're not expecting that I'm a black person. So that subconscious bias thing, it's a very big thing. That's what I would like to say, personally.
I would like to say to the other communities, the white ones especially, that we are not different to them. We are all humans and we can live in harmony without oppressing a black people especially. So it is very important that we respect and understand each other, that we are human. Our colors might be different, but there's no other difference in us than the colors. The rest, we all the same. We can obtain white people organs at the same time that a black people can donate a white person an organ. So that makes us equal.
If you're too scared to put your life on the line,
I think it's really important that we just show solidarity with everybody. Racism isn't a problem that is happening in America and it's not happening anywhere else. And it's really important that we start interrogating what's going on in Cardiff, what's going on in Wales, and start thinking about how we can make it better. We need to start reflecting on the things that have happened before. I've only really recently heard about the Cardiff 3, and it was incredibly shocked to know that those people are still working in Cardiff, and it really frightened me to know that that's not something that's in the past, that's something that's current. And it really made me think about the current events that are happening right now, and how it's never over for black people. And we as white people, we can take a step back and decide whether we're going to get involved or not, and you know, people of colour can't. They have to deal with this every single day. So I think it's really important that we get involved as white people who live in Cardiff and live in Wales, live in the world.
And the Asian community and ethnic community, black community, look how many families have died from the pandemic. So scientists look into that. It's because we're doing all the lowest paid jobs. We're wiping asses, we're going down and we can't question it, because it's an institutionalized racism. It's the elephant in the room that no one's allowed to talk about. Yeah. Otherwise, yeah, you can't put food on your table because you've got no work if you bring it up. Yeah. And this has been going on in Wales for a long, long time. That's why we're such good rugby players. Yeah. Because we get it all out on the pitch. But unfortunately, not everybody is allowed on the pitch. Yeah, you've got to be in the club.
As I was saying to you guys earlier, at the end of the day, right, yeah, over 500 years of oppression and slavery, right, yeah, and now, 500 years later, right, we're still going for the same thing. Yeah. We have to understand as a people, as a global community, right, yeah, we have to make a difference. Yeah, black lives do matter, all lives matter, you understand what I'm saying? But in this instant, black lives matter, right, and the way we're still being treated, right, yeah, it's the same. We got the Dr. Martin Luther Kings, and we're doing the peaceful protest like we're doing now, right? Yeah, but you know, unfortunately, that hasn't really changed anything. I'm not saying. I'm not saying.
All Martin Luther King did was speak, and he got killed for it. He got murdered. He got murdered for speaking
about his rights.
So why? So I don't know why people are telling us, oh, you know, like trying to. No. This has been happening.
You know what? The thing is, at the end of the day, right? Going out and being violent, right, that's not the answer, because that is then playing into, right, an institutionalized racism. That's playing into that.
Drug dealers,
that is playing into that stereotype.
We kill people. We
So
break the law.
okay then, guys. How do we change that then? The way we change it, right, yeah, is by doing things like this, is by having not just Blackout Tuesdays, by having Blackout Weeks, by continuously doing it. You understand what I'm saying? By continuously doing it, right, yeah. But also, I think an important point is, right, yeah, we need to understand, if we want to make a change, we need to educate. Like I'm educating my children, you got to educate your children, you got to educate the younger ones, right, yeah. So when they start growing up, they've got an understanding. That is the way you're going to make a difference. You understand what I'm saying?
You grow up in your family, yeah. In your family, you learn your morals, your values. You learn everything in your family. The second institution you go to is your school.
That's right.
If they are not teaching us in school to accept people for their skin color, for their race, their gender, anything, yeah. If we don't start in school, when they leave school, why do you think people look at black groups and be intimidated?
Yeah, but school,
exactly.
the history that you're learning in school.
They separate you in school.
Nothing has changed from 100 years ago.
The history you're learning in school, though. The history that you're learning in school, right, yeah, isn't necessarily factual history. And this is the thing, that you're bearing the truth, right? You understand? And this is why, like you said, you made an important point. We need to teach one another from when we're growing up. So when we go into school, like my daughter, when she's gone into school, she's challenged stereotypes, she's challenged things, right? You understand? And she's actually educated teachers. Basically, we're just walking past, we're seeing a group of young ladies with some signs, and we asked if we can take some pictures of them with the signs, and it just became a debate. I'm here with my daughter now, who's very passionate about Black history and Black Lives Matter.
Definitely.
So,
like, the thing for me is, you could come to protests like this. This is great, but you can't just have it one off. It can't just be once a year we'll go into this. Like, we have our Black History Month. That is not. No one does anything for Black History Month. In schools, October comes. People don't even know October's Black History Month. If you know, you know. If you don't, that type of thing. So things like this are great, but we need to keep it going. We need to keep having the Blackout Tuesdays. We need to keep having the protests. We need to keep until something changes in our system so the police brutality stops. Not all police are racist. I'm not saying that at all. But the ones that are racist, they're the ones that we need to try and stop. We need to stop. We need to educate the government, because all this black males getting arrested, black males getting knelt down on, black males getting shot, black males getting tasered when they're not doing anything wrong. That is a very big thing as well.
Can I interrupt you there? When you're saying, you made a good point when you're saying that all police are racist. It's not the police as an individual entity, as a person. We've got to look at it as a system. We've got to look at changing the system. We've got to look at changing the ideologies in the system. I know Black police officers who, they've been in the system for a long time and have been bypassed for getting promotions. We do need more Black police officers. We need more ethnic representation in forces and in the government. That is the only way us as a Black people are going to start to progress.
And another thing I want to say is that in school, so in my school, we had absolutely nothing to do with Black history. I had to push for 5 years just to try and have a board in a corridor just explaining briefly Black history, because what I wanted to put on there, the school wouldn't let me. Like, in education is where you're going to get the most knowledge. If your parents, some people are very privileged, like I am, that my parents will teach you about the Black knowledge, but some parents don't know themselves. Some parents will stand up for Black rights, but they might not necessarily know what comes along with the Black rights. And in school, that's how you're going to have to teach it. You're going to have to teach about the slavery, about the rape that came alongside it, about the police brutality. Every little gritty bit of information, you're going to have to teach one way or another. Otherwise, people are going to be so narrow-minded, and that's where the line between racist and uneducated comes, because a lot of people that are branded as racist, they might not necessarily have a racist bone in their body. They're just not educated on Black lives. They're not educated on the slavery, on the plantations, knowing that some people still have their slave masters' last names connected to them to this day, 2020. And that's the thing, you've got to educate people. And if then, after educating, they still say racist remarks, they are a racist. If you haven't educated and you haven't tried to educate, you can't brand people being racist if you haven't tried, if you haven't tried to teach them anything.
I think it's very hard to expect a difference to be made if you're not willing to, as you said, educate. You know, you need to educate. You know what I mean? Because, you know, a lot of people, especially the older generations, you know, they're not necessarily racist. It's just their viewpoint. It's how they were brought up. So it's just about trying to change mindsets and change understandings. And the only way we can do that is through educating, you know. So hopefully we can do that.
Things like this definitely do make a difference because of the impact it has on individuals themselves. They go home, then they try and impact the individuals around them. If they've got enough knowledge and enough passion about it, you know what I mean?
Especially in terms of art centres, places which have more of a connection with the community, that we do more to try and reflect our community in our programming. Part of the problem as being somewhere that shows new releases, as I do in my work as a cinema programmer, is that the films have to be there to show. But you make choices. That's the whole job of a curator, and you get to choose what you show. And I can choose not to show something that I think is racist. I can choose to show more films by people of colour, more films by women. So that's something I've consciously done since I started working as a curator at Chapter, and I think it's really important that that we continue that conversation. It's something that we need to support people's work. We need to amplify people's voices. We need to get these films seen by more people. And so yeah, it's a whole 360 thing. Like, it doesn't stop with one part of the industry doing really good work. We all have to be doing that work, and we all have to reflect, and we all have to kind of just make change. We can't just be, what's going on at the moment isn't good enough. And I completely, I'm sure I've made mistakes before. I'm sure I'll continue to make mistakes. But we have to keep trying. There's no excuse to not try. So that's what I would like everybody in the UK to be doing, especially in Wales. We have a chance to be better in Wales. We're a small country. We should be making those changes. We should be making changes quicker and being a better country.
I'd like people to be more willing to get fully involved. I'd like it to let people know that they're not alone when they want to get involved, and I want the communication to stay. I want people to keep talking with each other. I want people to keep, if all they're doing is the hashtag, I want them to keep doing that. You know what I mean?
Thanks for listening to Positive Negative.
Don't forget, you can follow us on Twitter at posnegative, or find us on Facebook.
And join in the conversation using the hashtag posnegative.
You can help us to grow by leaving us a review and sharing this episode with your friends and followers.
You'll also find links to what we've talked about in the show notes, or by visiting positivenegativepodcast.com.